On today's episode of the Kirk Miller Podcast, I have a female powerhouse. I don't say that lightly, and that is Sarah Moxom. Entrepreneur, public speaker, mentor, someone who also, which I totally respect, keeps herself in fantastic shape also, and someone I go back a very, very long way with, and we have a few unique stories I'm sure we'll unpack today. But one of the intentions with the Kirk Miller Podcast is to bring on very interesting guests with great stories, especially in the entrepreneur world, the business world. And what I want to do today with Sarah is just unpack the backstory of how we first connected, and also one of the things I really want to unpack today, Sarah, especially after seeing you talk at EMC, was just your unique way of managing team. And I know you've got fantastic client retention, with all the years in business. And I think with so many entrepreneurs and business owners that listen to this, your gold you're going to share today on that, I think would be super valuable. So thank you and welcome to the Kirk Miller Podcast.
Thank you for having me on, Kirk. I'm so excited to explore absolutely all of those things. And thanks for the
awesome. Yeah, so just to kick off, we'll work backwards. A little bit of context. Tell the listeners, what businesses you have and what you're up to just now.
Yeah, so my main business is in staffing. We do temporary and event staffing for the nightlife, hospitality, festival and events world. So all things people, lots of people, set up in the UK and now expanding out to Dubai, which is where we are right now.
Yeah.
So I've had that business for 15 years, set that up when I was 20 in university. And from that grew a couple of other projects and businesses in hospitality, podcasting, speaking, mentoring has always kind of come from that. A lot of stuff with women and women's leadership. So I also consult female-owned businesses. Most of the people that we've provided work to over the years have been female. 99%, I'd say, are female, and my team in the UK is 100% female.
So very clear on your niche, your target market.
It's just happened over the years. I didn't go out with that intent. I didn't go out with the intent of that. Obviously, I think by the nature of the work that we do, there's a lot of women that naturally come there. And now that our office there's nearly 20 women in the office, now that it's all female, it's culturally really difficult to break.
Yeah. So if you ever had a man who's applied to work with you, and how's that gone down?
We did. We have had men that have worked in the office, and it just doesn't last long. That's
really?
The truth. It just doesn't.
Just gets
last
gobbled
long.
up. By
I had a partner once who he lasted a long time, but he kind of had to because we were together at the time. So that was 3 years. But other than that, I think we have such a strong. We're a family, and all of our clients know that. They describe us like that. The team describes it like that. And I think once you've got that feel, what is a family? A family has a clear cultural togetherness and a bond that's beyond just what you do. It's a deep care for each other, and that care is so present in our office that it's not that we don't want men to work. I would actually love it. All of my non-executive board of directors are men because I think we need the influence of both. Yeah. But it's the way it's gone.
Yeah. And did you rewind back to when you were 20? Did you come into that business from a passion project, or did you have a burning desire to be like an entrepreneur, a business owner back then? Or how did you fall into it?
So I went to London School of Economics, which is full of lots of kick-ass people, but often kick-ass people that go into law or the city or banking, by the nature of the sort of stuff we study there. I always felt like a slight misfit and a bit disruptive.
Why?
Within that, because I was not a banker, and I just was always kind of like, I like to party. I quite like to do things a little bit different here. Where are all the people that want to party? But a lot of people there on a real practical level, right, at that uni, they've come from overseas. They've paid a lot of money not to party, but to actually do their work.
So were you the rebel who was trying to drag people out the weekend? I'm
usually the rebel in the room, okay? So that was me, and I think in my second and third year of uni, I loved it. I was in the centre of London. I was going out partying. I was networking a lot, and so in my second year, when I came across working in nightlife, I started selling shots.
How did that happen? I know this is totally granular, but how did that actually happen? Because I know it can be so daunting whether your business is selling shots and providing females for parties, etc., and or whether my business is coaching. But how did that actually start? Where you thought, you know what, I'm going to go into clubs and say we can help sell shots.
So it was a thing. So the shot girl, the old school shot girl, it was a thing about 20 years ago. Okay, so I've googled this. Trust me, I know my industry. Okay, so it started in America, and it was like the whole kind of like that Hooters, that Texan type thing.
Yeah.
And it came over to the UK, and it was a very, very new concept. But the idea is that you're not on a flat rate, so you're 100% your own business owner. You're going in, you're buying the alcohol, and you're selling that to customers. So you only make your money by what you sell.
Okay.
So I loved that, because I was like, why would I go and work a job getting paid £10 an hour, £12 an hour, whatever it might be?
Yeah.
I wanted to work. I needed to work. I haven't come from money. My parents were church pastors and teachers. So
I'll come back to that in a
yeah,
second.
you're going to come back to that, for sure.
Certainly will.
So I needed to have the level of lifestyle that I wanted, and live in London, and all the stuff that I wanted to do and be and have. So to do that at that time was phenomenal. You'd go in and you'd make £500 a night.
God, that was
a
few years ago.
Back in the day, like 15 years ago,
Wow.
plus more than 15 years ago. Yeah. So, doing that a couple of nights a week at uni around what I was studying, it was incredible. Wow. And it laid the foundation so that I could do that, and I could start reinvesting that money back into the company.
Yeah.
So completely self-funded. In the second and third year of uni as I was setting up.
Wow. So let's rewind again back to your background, because you said you didn't fall into that, and nothing was handed to you on a plate. Yeah, where were you brought up? Brothers, sisters, your parents, were they business owners and stuff? Or?
No. So, as I said, my dad was a church pastor. My mum was a teacher. Mm-hmm. 2 sisters. We grew up in Hounslow, which I think at some point Hounslow's been voted the worst borough in London to live. So yeah, not a very affluent area, but an incredible upbringing. My parents are great people. Mm-hmm. And I guess my entrepreneurial streak, it was really organic. It wasn't like when I said to my parents when I was in my last year of uni, like, I'm going to do this, and bearing in mind it's nightlife, clubs and events, church pastors.
How did they take that?
Not so well.
And how did you override their objection when they told you not to do it?
So there was an agreement in place. Okay, life is often about agreements, right, that we have with other people. So I said to my mum, listen, give me 3 months. Yeah. If I do not make this a success in 3 months, then I will consider what you've asked, which is going to look at getting a proper job, whatever that means. So that was the agreement we had. And within 3 months, I had amazing clients in. The business was booming. I never had to come back to her for one thing, and it was just take off straight away.
Wow. And how quickly did that grow from just you to all of a sudden having to hire?
Yeah, so there's having to hire, needing to hire, and doing it. Those are kind of separate things.
Very true.
So I needed to hire at the beginning.
But you didn't.
I did not hire for a lot of years.
So were you the shot girl and the...
I was the everything.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, at 20, the amount of energy that I had was unparalleled. It was wild.
Has that always been natural, would you say? Is that from training, working out, or was that just naturally being a high energy person?
It was a decision as much as always being a high energy person. So I actually had an eating disorder when I was 16 to 18 that was critical. So really? I nearly passed away. I weighed 5 stone, had a BMI of 13, which means that your organs are shutting down. That was a intense 2-year recovery journey of like being physically like crushed. But I think through that time emotionally, it was making a decision that I would always live. And you have to choose life. When you're in that kind of situation where you're faced with death, you and it's a mental health condition too. You're actively choosing life. So it was actually that decision where I was like, I will always excel. I will always push myself further. I will always find that place within me when I need to move forward. And I think that was, it was only a few years after having kind of recovered or been off their radar that I then set up my company. So there was a lot of that energy that was still there to be like, hey, where have you been? Like, let's move this thing forward. Let's move your life forward. Yeah. So I guess that's where a lot of my energy came from.
Yeah. Because I didn't know this, hopefully you don't mind me asking you this, like what created the eating disorder in the first place? Obviously, you know, my bag is health and fitness, and I'm so passionate about why people do what they do, why people look the way they do, what inspired someone to get into fitness and business and all these types of things. But how did it get to that?
So often with eating disorders, from my experience and talking to other people that have had them, it's not actually about the way you look. So a lot of people think it's about someone wanting to be skinny. It's the outside result, but there is a internal trigger point or belief system that is driving that behavior. So for me, it was loss of control. So my dad had an operation that went wrong when I was 14. It was supposed to be very simple, removing like a growth from the back of his chest, but they damaged his spine in the course of doing that, and it left him paralyzed from the waist down. And that was a change overnight. It was not just losing him physically, but he suffered with PTSD and really just checked out of life. Like since that point, that was 20 years ago, but he's never recovered. He's never stepped into being functioning in the world again. So that loss was so impactful. I was so close to him that it felt like a loss of control. So I started to control what I could and be really good at controlling food.
I get it.
And I then also fell into my first relationship, my first sexual relationship at 15, which again was someone who was super controlling. So this paralleled kind of reality of control meant I just shrunk into focusing on the food. And I guess with everything that was happening in my family situation, my mum and dad didn't quite pick up until it was very critical what the state that I was in. That I was so malnourished, and I'd kind of got those habits so ingrained over the course of that year. Yeah.
Wow. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, I'm sure it's given you the strength you have today. I mean,
totally. And it's such a journey. Anyone who's gone through an eating disorder that I've really kind of spoken to and gone into, that's a bit weird. Just because you're signed off their radar of like you're physically well, it doesn't mean that your habits and relationship to food and life has changed. So that was another long journey, you know, in my 20s.
It's funny you should say that. I had a conversation with a client, one of our younger clients yesterday, and I said that to him. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't as extreme as what you've just said there, Sarah, but I know what it's like to literally only have food and training as the thing that I felt at a certain period in my life I could control. And it takes years to uncondition that thought, belief and habit, right? And it certainly does take time, especially when you've repeated something over and over and over again. But how did you work your way out of that? Because I know a lot of people they don't, but for you to have 2 years where it was extreme, and that's obscenely lightweight. Like, what was the? Because there might be some people listening to this, Sarah, actually, who might have had eating disorder, or right now are listening to this, especially if they're active listeners, that are struggling with their relationship with their food, their emotions, or something similar in their life has impacted their relationship with food. How did you start just to work your way out of that?
By hitting rock bottom. So there was one night that I was in denial. So my parents had said to me, like, I remember them printing out all of these pieces of information around anorexia. I remember my dad taking me to this eating disorders clinic, and I looked around and I was like, isn't it so sad, all of these people? And he was like, Sarah, we're going to put you in here. Like, and there was a complete state of denial, which is really common for anorexia. And one night I remember I woke up in the middle of the night and I kind of went across the landing to go from my bed to the toilet, and I collapsed. And I was having the early onset of a heart attack. And I called out to my mum. I was like, Mum, like, you need to take me to hospital right now. So she rushed me into the car. And it was as I was being attached to all those wires and the nurses were gathering around me, they were then like, what is wrong? And then I said the words, I'm anorexic.
Okay.
Then the acceptance of that reality was actually the work. So it was going, God, now my body and my mind has accepted where I'm at. Now there's a state where I'm connected again. Because you're almost in a state of disconnection. I was living on like 400 calories a day or less. But I could do everything. I could run around. I had all the energy in the world. Because somehow, I think the mind, somehow, you have conditioned it so well to be like, I can do this. And the minute you accept a different reality and you voice it, power, you're now in a new state of existence. So now the recovery actually had to start. Now that was the grueling 2-year work. Suddenly I couldn't survive anymore on 400 calories. Oh my gosh, now I've got to go to dietitian's appointments and this and this. Now I'm accepting that this is my path. So that 2 years was about acceptance and practically, it wasn't even acceptance, actually it was survival. So that first 2 years was about actually, are you eating enough food to survive, to get your periods back, to not have a bone protruding from the back of your thing and chafing when you're sitting down in the seat. Like that's how extreme your body, you know, your bones are sticking out everywhere. Like, have you still got the bone density that you need for your age? Is your liver and everything still functioning? Like, these were the tests they were doing at this point in time. So it's like getting me out of survival. And then once I was out of that, Kirk, I'll be really honest with you, drink became my friend. I realized that I could put on weight and get signed off quicker if I started drinking. So did I develop really healthy relationships with food? No. What I realized was I could tick their boxes and their system boxes by doing things that were, you know, arguably destructive or not really healthy. So I did fall into habits of drinking, doing drugs, you know, being in the party scene too. That kind of fell in line with that. And it was only really when I stopped doing that that I then could even start developing a relationship that was healthy with food. So did I look well then? Yes. Emotionally, was I well? No. Was I really in a state of peace? Did I really, like, you know, love food and love it, you know, have a good relationship with food? Or did I love, you know, it was always a fear, it was always a worry. People would always, it would still be lingering there. It was so obvious to everyone that we're still carrying this thing. But I'd master it with coping mechanisms that meant I could function, still have a successful business, still do all these, still be building all these things, but with masks, not with actual truth.
So when did you feel that you finally got a little bit more control? Where you were like, okay, you start drinking less, you start partying less. When did these destructive habits that you replace the initial anorexia with? When did you how can I phrase this? When did you start developing things that were a little bit more empowering to replace those behaviors with?
Yeah, so I remember I was part of a network marketing company. So alongside running my other company, I had a network marketing company that I was part of, and there was an amazing group of women within that. And again, there was denial. So for a lot of my early 20s, I wouldn't actually talk about having had an eating disorder. I wouldn't openly talk about it. So again, I wasn't really in acceptance until we started. I worked with this group of women. We had a mentorship group within that, and in the course of that, I remember one time we wrote letters to ourselves. There was an exercise that we did where we wrote a letter to ourselves, like a letter of self-love, of self-acceptance. And all of this stuff just started coming out about my eating disorder. So there was then this place of healing, recognition, acceptance with other people, with other women. And I suppose it was from there that I really started that journey of owning that, accepting that, and making healthy changes. And I mean, at that point, I'd had trainers, so I'd always had a personal trainer since about the age of 23. I was really into strength training. I'd always owned everything, you know. I had like breast augmentation at a really young age, which again I probably wasn't fully, you know, was I really in that place? I would write it down on the form, like medical history anorexia, but certain experiences that I definitely took myself through, I don't think were from the place of love and acceptance of myself. They were more from still living out these patterns. So I'd say it did take me that decade of being 20 to really, the latter part, to really start doing the work, where I'm 35 next month. I would say from 30, I really started to have actually real healthy relationships with stuff. Yeah, but
you would say, I'd say the big takeaway of that for me is, and anyone listening, is you change your environment.
Yes.
You change your environment. Like it's amazing when you're in a different peer group, different environment, what that can do to your choices. You know. So we have to talk about it.
We do.
Let's talk about it, right? Tell the listeners, when did we first cross paths?
Oh gosh. So I think we were trying to work out the number of years ago it was. I think it was about 15 years ago, wasn't it? And
yes. I can't remember which Swanky's parties it was, but I seem to remember I went to a lot in London,
Yes.
Leeds, possibly Manchester.
I think I got thrown out of the Leeds one.
Why?
Just various reasons. Probably too much drink. Yeah, so Swankies. So let's go there. So Swankies was, if you were in London at the time, you may have known about the Swankies parties. They were, how would you describe them, Kirk? Probably going to be more eloquent than me. So
The Swankies parties were, if you're in your 20s and you are single and you enjoy partying and you are trying to find, I wouldn't even say find love, because that's probably not the thing that everyone was looking for back then, but you just wanted to have good fun and be around attractive people. That was it. I mean, like physically attractive. It was like, we spoke about this, didn't we, before they kicked the podcast off? I mean, I think it was a genius business model by Anthony Lotho, great friend of ours, and the boys he did it with.
Dynamite Host.
Yeah, Dynamite Host. That was what they were called, right? It was a Dynamite Host, but like host. Basically they were all good-looking bastards.
They were. They were all models. They were all store models.
Yeah.
They were all signed to the same agency, and the whole remit was that it started with you had to look a certain way. Let's say it like it was.
It's not sugarcoated.
You had to be model looking. Right?
And you had to be in shape.
You had to be in great shape.
Yeah.
You had to wear virtually nothing. There was a theme for every party.
Yeah.
But the rule was let's say it was an outer space theme. That's definitely been a theme, right? You couldn't come with an astronaut outfit, right? The rule was silver underwear. Guys had to be topless, right? Let's get the picture right here.
Yeah. So I think every woman there was in lingerie, underwear, basically as minimal clothes as possible, but was still legal. And then men,
still legal,
pretty much to half naked too. But there was different themes. I think I remember going to one. I was dressed as Rambo.
Nice.
Rambo.
Nice.
And you go in with all the face paints, the body paint, you think, and then within a few hours you just look an absolute mess.
Absolutely. And the abs that you've trained for by shredding and whatever after a few drinks, just
Yeah. It was, everyone would go in there and it was a bit of a standoff and quite stiff at the start, and then within a few drinks no one really cared. But those crazy days of those parties, I think we spoke about this, didn't we, when we bumped into each other in EMC. Are there any lessons and teachings and things you've took from those periods, where you're amongst so many different people, and it is a bit of a sink or swim environment, you're going into a party happening. Are there any like positives that you feel have helped you in business today and team, or just life in general?
Yeah, I think the same lessons when I look at these parties, the same as like being a shot girl or going in, and that boldness, that confidence, like that was nerve-wracking what we did. I'm sure some people are listening thinking, I would never do that in a million years. Like when you think about it, it was bold. Yeah. It doesn't actually matter how you look. You still have the same feelings about your body. You still have this. Everyone goes through the same experiences, and to walk into a room, all in lingerie and all these kind of outfits, is bold. To do that in front of people that you don't know, to then interact with others, like that's bold, and it increases your confidence. And
no matter how good you felt you looked, right, there was still people in there that you put on a pedestal because you're riddled with insecurity in your 20s. Well, I certainly was.
Me too.
And there's always someone in there probably in better shape or better looking or has more of what you want. But you sort of did just have to just roll with it. And I look back, that like even now, I'm 40 now, I'm still in shape. If you said to me right now, like, would you want to go into a club again and just take your time? I don't really know how I did it. Do you know what I mean? It's not a massive life achievement, but I don't know. I don't really know how you did it. I mean, obviously alcohol and narcotics probably played a part of it, but it
and it teaches you a lot about culture and community, and the power of that, and cultural norms. Like what we've just described, that was the norm. Yeah. Like, we were talking about this before, but we trained for that.
We joked about it. I think I may have said this on a previous podcast, but if you've never listened, I'd love to know your preparation for a Swankies. I trained harder for a Swankies party. honestly, I train harder for a swanky's party than some of my front covers. I'm being deadly serious.
I know, I believe it. I believe that. I saw the men. I had a partner at the time who was well in the thick of it as well. So I watched what he did. I wasn't that extreme. Like, I think as a woman, you can kind of, you don't need as many abs.
You don't need to name names. What did he do? What did he do?
Every steroid under the sun. Like the fat burners, what were they, T5, and all the illegal as anything.
To look good. Basic to look good.
This party.
On the piss.
No carbs. Yeah. No carbs, strict diets for weeks, and I mean, he took longer to get ready than I did.
It was serious business.
It was an extreme. So but we didn't get paid for this.
No.
No money exchanged. Why did we do this? Power of culture.
Yeah.
Come back to the point. Like, the power of culture, the power of community, the power of the environment that you're surrounded by. It's so, you look back and and it was a bubble.
And conforming to that identity of that peer group,
totally.
which is why we'll unpack even more so. The peer group you choose and who you spend time with has a monumental
totally
impact on your habits and behaviour and who you're trying to become. So as I said, one of the things that I really want to unpack as well today, Sarah, is your unique views, in my opinion, on what it takes to build a great team in business and retention of clients, because me and Sarah hadn't obviously seen each other in a number of years since those amazing Swanky's party days. And I spoke at I think I spoke a couple of hours before. Matt Wilson, obviously, is a friend, client, an absolute legend. Great event, by the way, the EMC. And I just spoke, and then I bumped into you, and I saw you on obviously the speakers list. And I'll be honest, Sarah, I didn't know what to expect. We'd never remotely been in that sort of environment together, and it was absolutely outstanding, I must say. Your delivery, your energy, the value you provided. But what was outstanding was how long you said you've kept some of your team members and the retention of your clients. I mean, anyone can build a great business for a year or two, have clients for a few months, a year or two, have team members maybe for a year or two, but give the listeners some context on how long some of the girls that work with you have been with you for.
So some of them have been with us for 13 years. Some of the clients the same. First client still is with us today.
And that's in an ever-changing, evolving industry.
100%.
Right?
So the first thing to frame that with is that some of them that aren't with us are probably because we're in a context right now, particularly in the UK, where it's tough for our industry, nightlife, hospitality and events. So some of them have had to close. But the ones that are still with us, like, praise to them as well. Like, well done them for being in the game for the test of time. I think relationships are key to our business. I know everyone would say that they're key to every business, but we are in the business of providing people to people. Like, that is our business. So without that strong, solid infrastructure in place with clear relational strategies at the core of what we do, we wouldn't be successful. Why do we have clients that have stayed with us that long? Why do we have team members that have stayed with us that long? I think, there's a very logical answer to that, which is we provide great value. So anyone could say, well, I provide great value too. You might be saying, well, I provide really good value. So why would someone stay with you over another? So that's a logical reason. The service that we provide, people want. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep it for that long, right? And the work we provide, people must want, because otherwise they wouldn't keep working.
But there's other people who might be able to provide the same service, but why do they stick with you?
Totally. So then there's that piece that's a logical, more straightforward piece, and then exactly what you said, Kirk. So why do they stay with us? I think adaptability is one of the most key things in sustaining long-term relationships in business. So how willing are you to move with somebody versus how willing and rigid are you in, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is the box, and you're either in or you're out. Now, there's not a right or wrong way to operate. Obviously, online coaching businesses, for example, if someone doesn't like that product, You're not going to change the whole product because one client, because you're rolling this out on a mass scale.
Okay.
Now, if your business, at the core of your business, is maintaining relationships for a long season of time, which is what I'd made a decision at the beginning that we would do.
Yeah.
Why? Because one of our services, and many of our services, people can use every single day of the week. Therefore, okay, cool. How core and how much can you build your strategy around moving to that client's needs?
Okay.
If they need you that much and you could work with them to that capacity, how willing are you to get to know them, get to know their changes? How willing are you to let them go for a little season of time, to go and try somebody else?
Have you done that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because we trust that they'll come back.
Okay.
You know, why don't you try doing that? Can you meet, or do you cut off the relationship? Well, no, piss off. You're not working with me anymore. Like, we can get in that arrogant energy, but how? Oh, can you check back in? Can you still remember their birthday? Still, regardless of whether they've stayed with you or not for that whole time, can you be that consistent person?
Amazing.
Can you be consistent? Can you keep showing up? Can you know that? Can you remember those little things? Can you build the rapport? Can you? And if you can do that, and build that strategically, so that can be duplicated and rolled out across your team, then you're winning.
How do you install that mentality when in your team members, which, as you said, you've done from the day dot? But one of the things, you know, I'm trying to do in my business, I'm sure every business owner, entrepreneur can relate, is to have that standard and mentality and approach rub off on every single person in the company. Like, is there anything you do specifically? It could be something to be routine, or like, how do you create that mentality to make sure the quality doesn't drop?
The question is, who are you recruiting at the beginning? So there's culture once you're in, but there's the people before they come through the front door. So we know our people. So straight away in an interview, and we don't always get it right, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that would be foolish to say that.
Of course.
I had to make a really tough, like, firing decision just last week, actually, that was really, really tough. But what we do at the beginning is we know what our culture is, and we know that is our strength. That our work is not necessarily highly skilled in terms of, you know, we don't need someone who's got this degree and this skill set and this knowledge or whatever. We can train a lot on the job. We can train a lot of skill as we go. But what we can't train, and we know we can't train, is who the person is. Right? You can grow with that and develop that, but you can't change the person that's coming through the front door. Yeah. So on the offset, how much time do you spend getting to know the person versus getting to know their functional success within the role? And that's the key, I think, at an interview stage or an early initial stage, bringing cultural fit into screening, and not being afraid. Like, if I had someone who had an incredible CV but was a cultural no, versus someone who had an awful CV or a not so great CV but was a cultural yes, I go with that.
How do you weigh that up in one conversation?
You don't. It takes time.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an exploratory process I think you need to do. And I mean, I'll give you an example. So a lot of people in our business who have stayed for a long time in the office team have actually come as friends or family members of other people. So I said earlier, we're like a family. It's actually literal. We have sisters, we have best friends of 12 years that have, and that's what works, because there's a loyalty to that relationship beyond even just the
so you technically get like a referral process even within your team as opposed to clients as well.
Yes.
But that must have a massive that must come from how you make people feel on a day-to-day basis. Surely people would not stay with you that long and then say that, oh, I've got my sister, or I've got whoever coming to work with you. Like, is there anything you do on a weekly, monthly basis with meetings? Like, how do you translate that culture? Is it by what you say or what you do, or both?
We're real humans. That's the first thing. So how real are you willing to be with your team? How real are you willing to be with your clients? And you only know when that gets tested. Okay. So should we all be telling everyone all of our information at all times? No. And I think it's really important. So last year I had a really tragic situation in our family life where my younger sister was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer when she was 6 months pregnant. She gave birth and then she passed away 6 months later. So that was life-changing. It still is life-changing, and we're a year into moving through this as a family. Now, how do you lead in that time when you've not got a team of 100 employees and a business partner. I've got no business partner.
Yeah.
What do you do
What
when
did you,
you're
what did
CEO,
you,
founder, leader?
What did you do? Because I mean, I remember you sharing that on stage at EMC, and it was like you could hear a pin drop. But what did you do during that period? Because, like you say, you've got this business, you've got other people who need you, but you are emotionally in so much pain, right?
That was when I learnt the strength of the team. Okay. So I was out of the game a lot of last year. I might have been present, but I wasn't in. Mm-hmm. I wasn't Sarah, who is the fire starter, the leader, everything that the team needs. You can't make it's not here. Mm. So I learned for a start that the structure that we created was good. It was solid because there was sustenance, and it was there. I learned how to be real every day. So I didn't want to actually step completely out of the business for a long period of time because it was really grounding for me to have something to focus on and quite healing to actually be in action and motion. And that really helped and continues to help my grieving process. But it was a day by day reality of, jumping on a team call. This is where I'm at today. I've probably got an hour in me. What's the priority? Where do you guys need support? And watching them gather and move. And then also, I'll be really honest, I've had a lot of guilt of the last few months because I felt like I wished it was different. I wished that I had been there last year. I wished that I'd been able to change that or move that. Or, as I started to really step back into being who I am in the company, it's brought up different feelings. Okay. And so it's just being real with those. Yeah. And real with the team too.
Yeah, yeah. What are your biggest challenges in business? I know all of us we spoke, didn't we, before we kicked this off, and I think one of the harshest things you can evaluate within yourself is, what am I good at? What am I not good at? What are my superpowers? What are my strengths? And who am I and who do I need? Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm sure in the years you've been in business, and anyone listening who's been in business for a long time would relate to this. But what do you find the biggest challenges in your business, or have been in your business?
People. The best things are people. Yeah. The biggest challenges are people.
You're dealing with a human.
And we are the business of people. Yes. So that's the truth. And I think, let's bring that into context. Okay, so let's ground that. So we are in, as I said, the nightlife, hospitality and event space, now massively impacted in COVID, right? We're only a few years out of COVID. Hugely impacted by Brexit in the UK. So many of the great workers that we had in our industry were from Europe. Okay. So the double whammy of that. And then we had this incredible surge of a year post-COVID where everyone was going out and just wanted to connect with everyone. And now the UK's been hit by energy crisis. Not a lot of money here. Increase in this, tax, this. And you've got this cloud where people don't spend as much or want to enjoy, the leisure isn't as, a higher priority by what we see. And then you've got a demographic of workers that just I find interesting. I just got interesting group over here. Okay, we could talk a lot about this, but it's the attitudes of young people often to work that have shifted. And when I think about 15 years ago, I think about the energy, the hunger, the hustle, the drive, let's go forward. It was a magnet, our business. Now it sometimes feels like we're trying to sell people on the idea of working.
Yeah, yeah. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's social media, or people seeing the shiny objects on the front end, or they see the end of the journey, or why do you think that is?
I think social media has probably got a lot to do with it. Yeah, I think I come from somewhere like Dubai, very different. As we're setting up here, there is a vibrancy of the young people that we speak to and we're providing work for here that they want more. They want more. I don't know what we've done in the UK or why there's an acceptance now of normalcy of just this level of kind of existence. It feels like sometimes that hustle, it's very rare.
Yeah, yeah. You've noticed a distinct difference.
Distinct difference. Yeah. And we've got probably nearly 10,000 people with job opportunities over the last 15 years. We've seen a lot of young people, and we continue to. And we ask these questions regularly because we want to be able to reach them. We want to be able to support them in their lifestyle. We want to, and you can only work with what you've got. So we're constantly asking these questions. I don't have all the answers. I don't think any of us do. I think it's very layered. But I think through being entrepreneurs and providing people with work, we can create culture that changes that. And that's what we need to be set on, rather than, it's great to question. It's great to kind of deep dive and ask questions. And then I think it's like, hey, this is, let's talk about what was it we did to get there? What was the real? How real can we be? We need social media that's talking about the struggles, the resilience, the hardships, the real, not just like, this is all the nice stuff that I have.
Or they see that on the front end on your social media grid, that everything looks fantastic. It's like, it's the same when it comes to building a body. Honestly, people, there's so much bullshit out there, painting the quick fix. You can achieve X in this time, whether it's body or business. Half the time it's absolute nonsense. If something sounds too good to be true, it generally is. And I'm yet to coach a business owner who didn't go through some shit. I'm yet to
will continue to.
Exactly that. And it's just normalizing that. But and then what are your superpowers?
People.
So people and people are both.
People are the hardest things, and being with people and working with people was my superpower. So connecting. I
remember you talking heavily about that.
I love
on EMC.
Yeah.
Please elaborate on that.
So the power of human connection, the power of networking, the power of relating. It's a superpower of mine. I adore it. I love it. I believe that businesses now more than ever should be built upon it. In the age of digital, how we are wired as humans for connection. We really,
so it's a human need. I talk about this a lot. It's a human need. It's not a value. It's not a belief. It's you're going to find a way to make connections whether you like it or not.
Yes. And I mean real deep connections.
Yeah.
I remember spending some time in Ibiza. I lived in Ibiza for about 7 months, and it wasn't for me as a long-time lifestyle choice.
Was this during the crazy days or?
No, this is well after. But something I loved about the way of island life was the way that people knew how to be with each other.
Okay. So
not just focusing on our doing and our connection being around, what do you do? What do you do? Let's be functional. Okay, that's transactional. Like, how can we really relate to each other? How do we hold space to listen to the other person's thing, not need to project our own? And how can we start building this into relationships? Into business, it takes a different pace. It means sometimes you do have to go a bit slower, but you're deeper, you're more grounded. We talk about how do you create longevity. This is kind of how. People don't forget that you stood by them in the time when their father was passing, or you remembered the thing about their little girl who was these are the things that really matter to people inside, but we have often negated them within the business setting and said, this is for this is for that, leave your shit at the door. Why? We're whole humans.
Especially when so much in any business, there's systems, there's scale, and you've got KPIs and targets. I totally get it. And this is what really stood out on that talk you did, Sarah. It was just, you literally valued every single customer, every client. They're a human, and there are other things that are going to influence that person's ability to perform, and bring value to that connection, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that doesn't mean without saying, actually, that isn't for us.
Yeah.
Or that isn't working, because you don't be so unboundaried in that, because the extreme of that was like, well, everyone's welcome, and how do you actually create business and KPIs and drive discipline and scale, and it's having both elements in it. But I think it's creating space for that connection. And I think as leaders and CEOs, culturally, we think about old school leadership, and it's very hierarchical. You've got this triangle, and you've got the CEO at the top. We cannot touch them, and they are all the way over there, and I'm scared. But how do we dismantle that for a moment, in moments of time? Because we do need that at times, because people need direction. Yeah. People need to feel safe. Yeah. They actually want that. And at other times, they just want to know that you're a human like them, and you're struggling with stuff like them. And that breaks down walls and barriers and allows you to connect for a moment. And then you rebuild and go, right, let's scale, let's build, let's take a different energy. And it's bringing both in, not just having businesses that are kind of one way, and doing that with clients, doing that with contractors as much as you can. And don't get me wrong, it is a pressure and harder to do when you scale.
Of course.
It is. And so it's a time and a time, and it's always going to be a dance and a balance between them.
Because that was going to be my next question was how approachable are you on a sort of daily, weekly, monthly basis? With your team, for example. The more you've scaled and grew your business. How available are you to your team?
Availability is different for different people at different times.
Okay.
And we do have a hierarchy. We do have a structure. We do have line managers and people that people report to. Without that, I would be completely overwhelmed and we wouldn't be able to grow, because I'd be dealing as a caretaker with everyone's challenges as well as, this wouldn't work. So, and also it's communication. So right now everyone understands if I show up on a team call, I might not be as caring as I was in a different season, because why? We've got different business priorities. We've all come around the table and we've said, right, well, you're going to Dubai, you're doing this. So there's an energy that they know that takes. So the expectation is different, but that takes communication. Yeah. So as a leader, you're adaptable. You should be different things at different times to your organization, in my belief. You should be what your organization needs you to be. That's the growth and development of a leader. Yeah. That you're expanding yourself enough that you can move with what's needed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, just in relation to business and obviously marketing has evolved dramatically the last sort of 10, 15 years, and every year, we spoke about this, didn't we? How just when you think you've got something working, something changes, and then just when you've got a system ready, you think, oh, that's it, now I'm done, and I've made it, right? But marketing to help grow your business from nothing to where it is now, and obviously the peaks and troughs we have, but what has been the best marketing tool since you started business to generate revenue, new clients, etc.?
People.
Literally.
Referrals and relationships. So we have tried digital marketing, online stuff till the cows come home. It does not work.
Wow.
It does not work for our industry. Our industry is in the UK. Okay, can I talk about the UK market? But our industry is a face-to-face relationship business. We're in the business of providing spaces for people to connect face-to-face. So the methodology, I believe the methodology that you're using for the thing that you're building should be aligned with the very structure of the thing that it is. So we've explored loads of different types of marketing methodology, and there is nothing better than the person that has recommended the person, or the person that's recommended the client, or the team member from the business development team that has dropped in to see that client, built the relationship face to face, shaken hands, eye to eye. Do people read emails in our industry? Yes and no. Do they trust you when you're there? Yes. Is that why I'm in Dubai right now with a back-to-back diary of meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting with a client that we're going to work with? Yes.
So would you still say, even though we've evolved dramatically in the world of Zoom and things like that, that still right now, irrelevant of all the technical things we have available, that meeting someone face to face has still been the
Yes. I think it's undeniable. Do I use Zoom? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I like it? Absolutely not. Yeah. Like, I am a face-to-face person too. I want to hug you. I want to look in your eyes. I want to shake your hand. Yeah. It's how I develop that sense of trust and knowing. And it's also, for us, a lot of the people that we work with are very young. They're young women, 19 to 30. They're working late at night. I want to know that when I'm sending out our staff to your place, I trust you. I want to know that if their parents called me, or called, not me, but one of the team members, scared about the safety of their child going to, but actually we can vouch. It's really important in the line of work that we do. And I'm, I get serious when I say that, don't I? The whole energy shift, because I'm responsible for that. That's our brand and that's our name. And also, really practical things. Like, we want to know that, the venue's safe, that we want to, that's so important as an agency in what we do. So face to face all the way. And I do think for any industry, I think, the fun times you have, the business isn't all serious, is it? It's not all KPIs and measures, it's life. If you've committed to be a business person, this is your life. How do you want to live?
No, I get it. No, I get, and we forget that sometimes. I mean, even with my own business, Sarah, it's why I'm so big on the community, in-person meets.
Yeah.
I'd have a more profitable business if I didn't have these in-person meets.
Yeah.
But there's something so powerful in connecting great people and having experiences and energy, transfers of energy between people, because people
Mm.
they remember that feeling, especially if they don't have that in their day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I'll tell a story probably about, it was shortly after EMC. I always think whenever you share something on a stage or you talk about something, it gets tested. The universe just kind of brings in a test.
And what did you
This was
share?
a test. So 2 of the incredible girls that had worked for us for, they were contractors, but I'd also trained them to be business developers. They'd helped us massively relaunch after COVID. They were family, in us, sat around my birthday dinner tables or whatever. They made a decision to break away and go and take some clients that
They took your client.
Yeah. And it was a real, and is that the first time that's happened? No.
Of course.
Will it be the last? No. Are people going to do that no matter what your models are, whether you're a relationship business and really value connecting and people, doesn't matter. People are people. And you've got to understand people are loyal to themselves as much as to you. And when they weigh up certain decisions, it's going to fall one way, isn't it? And that was really tough, because when you build with connection, with relationships, all that stuff, let's face it, these are emotional things. We're not leaving business outside of, we're not saying my emotions are at the door. It's like, I've really emotionally invested in you in a really massive way. Now this hurts. But can we own that in business? That's okay. Like, can we actually, like, that's a good way to build. That's not, it's a connected way to build. Like, that should really hurt me.
Yeah.
Not about the money that we've lost or the client that we've lost, but like, I count you a friend.
How do you deal with that?
On a practical level, like, lots of phone calls happened. It was like a good couple of hours with each person to really explore motives, to explore, is there a way we can still make this work, to actually listen? Like, where it was, shortly after my sister had passed, I'd been out of the game somewhat. I didn't understand a lot of the context that had led them to make this decision. So the first thing was actually, can I shut up and listen to them? And can I get to a place of understanding of why they're making this choice? And can I truly respect that choice?
Whereas you could have really gone into that with emotion, highly strong, and hammer fist. You did this.
There's no blame. At the end of the day, it's all choices. It's all we ever have. So it was, how do I understand where they're coming from? And I did. And then, is there a way that we can resolve this and make it work? And there wasn't, that we could both come to the same page. So then there was a parting and a firm boundary expressed. There is no space for you back in.
Okay.
So there had to be, at that point, when it got to that point, you're out of the fold now. Sorry. No matter what happens in this choice that you make, it's done.
Yeah, but you move on from that very quickly.
Yes. Yeah. You do and you don't, because I think if you've got a valuable client, or, am I still upset? No. Has it but it has impacted us.
Yeah.
And it will, but it also has taught us so many learnings. Like, in that, as a team, we were able to strategically sit around that, and you sit around other challenging things that test your values or test what you preach. Yep. And you go, right, where are our cracks then? Because there's cracks in this. Nothing is everything. So where are we failing, and what do we need to bring in now? And it actually helped us to create loads of new solutions and implementations to that.
It usually does these things, right? Especially when, I don't know, say if I've had a team scare, or you're thinking, God, if I lost that person, it usually creates a crack of, okay, what should you have created in place, so you're never vulnerable to one person or one customer and things like that.
Yes, exactly. So there's always learnings if you let there be.
Now, I can't have you on this podcast without talking a little bit about health and fitness. I mean, one of the things that I totally respect with you, Sarah, and any entrepreneur in shape, is finding time to do that, right? When you got businesses to run, people to manage, clients to attract, etc., and then you've got life outside of that. How important is your health and fitness routine and in helping you be a successful entrepreneur?
It's interesting, because I suppose naturally I haven't ever connected the dots until I've spoken to entrepreneurs like yourself in health, and I've gone, gosh, the principles are the same, but it's actually people like yourself who have helped me to connect those principles, because I was kind of like, it's just who I am. But no, it's like those things do massively spill over. Health and fitness for me is a priority. It's an absolute non-negotiable. Why? I care about how I look. Let's own that. I do. I care about how I function in the world, not just how I look, but how long am I going to live? Like, how am I going to function? How do I show up? I think where I've seen my father go through what he did, where my sister went through what she did with cancer last year, you know, these things wake you up to the fragility of life and the way that you can make choices. You can't control what's going to happen to you verbatim,
Agreed.
but you can make choices that will enhance your quality of life. I think it's a real big thing for me to choose life, define life. So it's not just about what do I want in business, what do I want in life? And as soon as you take that expanded view and that expanding perspective to your world, you make these choices. It will just happen because you understand that equals that, that will produce that.
Do you think that's why certain entrepreneurs and business owners maybe are out of shape because they don't look at the benefit of these things on their life, and they look at that as a thing they have to do rather than how is this actually going to benefit my life?
Yeah, I think everyone has different value systems, don't they?
Yep.
In the way that they approach things. And, you know, and I think it's amusing because I listen to some people, or I know some people that are quite old, they're like 80, and they're just like, glass of wine every day, cigarettes every day, like, oh, live life, let loose. And they're, you know, they're healthy as...
Yeah.
You know,
They're healthy and happy then.
they're
so
healthy
what?
and happy, so I'm like, cool. So I guess it's a value systems thing, but I think... You know, without getting scientific, because I'm not scientific at all, and I wouldn't claim to be, that feeling you get after you train, the day that you've trained, you're alive. I love morning training, you know.
It's like 95% of my clients, they train in the morning.
Is just, I get up, I'm an early riser. I've always been an early riser since I was tiny. And that, I just love it. Like the day I have to have a rest day, I'm like, oh my God, it's a rest day. I'm going to hate it. The worst thing, I've got the kick.
So is that like the new or upgraded dopamine hit that's replaced the party days? Because I know technically, obviously, you would have trained for the Swanky's parties, but you know, we can't stop doing something without replacing something. Is that your thing?
And I think on a real practical level, having, you know, let's take back to the eating disorder, like it was a really healthy way for me to start understanding how to train healthily and the need to eat. And then it was actually a really helpful tool. And the trainers that I worked with were great because they helped me understand. It was a real part of my healing. It really was massively part of my healing to be able to train.
Just physically training, first and foremost, before you mastered food. So that was the first thing before you got a grip on your food, was let's establish the habit of training, enjoying strength training.
Yes.
And then needing fuel for that. Yeah,
because before that was cardio. I can distinctly remember the day that my parents had banned my gym membership. When I weighed 5 stone, I should not have been going to the gym.
Get to the gym. You probably weren't in the need of doing cardio at that point, Sarah.
All I wanted to do was run, right? Because it was, again, an eating disorder. So I remember going to the gym, like putting my cut, and they're like, no, you're banned. And I was like, huh? And it, you know, I needed to be banned, but then actually being able to develop was very empowering. Develop a relationship with strength training. I love strength training. I've strength trained for like 12 years. I love it. It's so empowering. And yoga, I love running. We did a 10K after my sister passed. We've got a half marathon in April. Amazing. It's a fun exploration. We did Tough Mudder last year for one of the human trafficking organisations I support.
Amazing.
It's endless once you're in that kind of state, what you can do and the fun you can have. But
you do that every single morning?
Other than my rest day.
Yeah, I get that. And then are you only because I love unpacking people's routines, right? Do you have a set routine, set bedtime and all this? I
do. I'm a very early sleeper. Like if I'm back in the UK, like 9:30
that's strong.
Is my favourite.
That is strong.
Yeah.
That is strong.
Sometimes 8:30.
Really?
if I'm like super tired, but I just go when I'm tired. That's the truth.
Yeah, but it's still a big discipline. That's something I struggle with since I've been in Dubai. I mean, this year I've been so much better. I'll just do that one more work thing, that one more email. I'll just do that one more thing on socials. Before you know it.
I'll be honest, as soon as I've been in Dubai, very different story.
Yeah,
might be the jet lag.
You've been in a few days. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And also, again, we're in a season of growth. So it all depends what season you're in. Mm-hmm. Where, like, you can't be in growth all the time as an organisation. Like, to sustain, you could try, but I don't choose to run my organisation that way. I want to create an environment for people that can breathe it in and take in that space. And then, so we're in a season of growth right now. So also, I do agree. Like different stories. Like when I wake up at 5, sometimes I'm like, boom, phone, on the way to the gym, because we're in a different energy. Mm-hmm. So I have a routine and
Yeah.
It's allowing it to be responsive to your priorities in that moment, not negating that you keep that routine, but be fluid enough and trust yourself enough that you can work with it.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that after years. You don't, at the beginning, the structures are great. The routine is great. It's so good to have that plan, and you become the plan. So then you know your benchmarks and your barometers.
But it can be exhausting. I totally agree with you when you are trying to literally do everything perfect, and that's got to do this, and I can only do this if I do that first, and all this type of stuff. But what's refreshing to you, you're never off it.
No, and it's like, okay, so I'll give you an example. Before I came to Dubai, I said to my trainer, he's been a trainer of mine for 12 years, and he writes programs for me. And I said to him, I want to do a shred before Dubai, just have a bit of fun. But I was really stressed before I came to Dubai. Why? Because I'm growing a new market. We're still trying to do something new. I'm like, and I said to him, he's like, okay, get the Whoop watch and do this. And I said to him, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm really stressed. Yeah. I don't need to do this. Why do I need to do a shred? What am I trying to do? No. Why don't you put this on my body right now? I said, I'm calling it off.
Why did you? I know this is. I don't want to get all coachy on you, but do you think there was a part of you because I find that when you said about doing a shred, because you've come into this environment, there's probably a part of you that thought, I'm going to look even better. Yeah. So it's going to make.
Hell yeah! I'll own it. Yes. Yes.
I knew it was that. I knew that was a real reason.
Do a shred. Like it's Swanky's days. It's still ingrained in his Kirk. Come on. You're on stage going like 40 and look at my abs. Like you. No,
I totally agree. I said this to my client. I said this to my client, and I'm so glad you said this, and we've unpacked this because I think it's super, super relatable, right? I've been in shape for a long time. You've been in shape for a long time now, and I'm friends with lots of people who've been in shape for a long time. Right? You still have those. Not negative things, but those demons in you from time to time, or those, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And as I said to my client yesterday, I said, there is nothing wrong with certain periods of the year, you deciding, I'm going to be a disciplined machine with my food, my training, my movement, even if other people look on that and say, you are obsessive. So what?
Yes. Own it.
So what? If you can do something someone else can't, then and it affects how you feel, and might be that difference in your mind from getting a deal or just walking into that room with more confidence. That's okay.
It's personal goals, it's personal challenges, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's not like, I think and like you said, if you're in a certain level of shape, for a start, you're very critical on yourself. The truth is, we've both been in better shape than we are now, probably.
Yes.
Right? And so you've seen yourself, let's get really
certainly more shredded.
Yeah, you've been more shredded, like what's better shape, right? So you've been more shredded. So like, you've seen your body in a state that it's not in. So psychologically, that's actually a thing. Because you're like, well, I did look better, if we said better, I did look better then, right? Now, I think a lot of my work, a lot of my healing work was actually being in my body, being connected to my body, like energetically feeling that, like, and you look at women who are not, and I don't know if it's a male thing as well, but like, you look at women who are not necessarily like in the best shape, if we call that the best shape, but they are just so fucking hot because they are in their body. They own it. It's like there's a different energy there when you are in your body than when you're like restricting and like that energy is like, oh, you're not enjoying your body, and you can feel it on somebody. The difference.
I think the key thing for me is having genuine control with the decisions you're making, the choices you're making, especially when it comes to food and training, and being at peace with that, and also managing your own expectations.
Yeah, great.
Do you know what I mean? If you're telling yourself the truth and you are controlling your decisions to eat shit or not, or have a drink or not, or go to the gym or not, have you controlled that decision to do so?
Great.
Because everyone else has a different perception of what is great shape, what is lean, what is okay. What body shape does someone need to have to feel confident? Only the person inside your mind can answer that.
Yeah.
And I think as we rewind very quickly back to the Swankies days, it's like there's always going to be someone leaner, stronger, fitter, with a better business. And I think if you can just work on yourself, then that is the fundamental thing you need to do.
Acceptance of yourself and pushing yourself.
Yeah.
It's all yourself.
Yeah.
The minute you get into a place of comparison, your power's been given away.
100%. Right. What is the mission now with Sarah Moxom moving forward? What is the mission? I know I probably put you on the spot there, but I'm always fascinated by why people do what they do, what drives them. And you might not have all the answers here yet. I mean, I don't, even for myself, but what really drives you? What's the mission, would you say, for the next few years?
So let's talk short term. Yeah, I was going to say let's talk about a few years where I'm in right now from the business perspective. Like, I own and I love the opportunities that we get to provide for women. I love the freedom in their life that we've been able to provide, the flexibility, the lifestyle, the way of relating to money and work that the platform that I have allows women to have. Why am I in Dubai? Because of that. Why are we here? Because of that, you know. Without getting too much into the nitty-gritty of what exists in our industry, you all know there are some opportunities here that young women can have, which may not be their safest choices or their most preferred lifestyle choices. Yeah. Now, if someone comes in with the ability to make as much or somewhere around that same level of money without having to choose that choice, I get it. Would you choose that choice? Yeah. There's a big drive there around breaking down that culture, being part of creating that culture for women here, of adding to that culture as well. So that's a short-term goal for the people that we provide work to. Yeah. No,
brilliant. What about you? What about you speaking? I know I'll see you. I'm sure people are going to check you out after this, but I think you're an unbelievable speaker. Is there a passion as well to take that a step further?
Yeah, for sure. Like, now there's not a strategy. So I don't have a strategy in place to say, like, this is exactly where this is going and where the ship's riding.
Most great speakers probably didn't have that strategy.
I love it. Talk more. Yeah. I love it. So it's like, if you get me onto I will do it. Like, I love it. And you know what I find? Each one leads to the next one, leads to the next, and that's just kind of how it's happening right now. Yeah. Do I have a niche? Yes and no. Do people get me on because of who I am? Probably yes. More the energy, that kind of thing. Yes. Am I wild, crazy out there? Everyone's like, absolutely. Did you see the last outfit I wore? Like, I've got so many comments about that one on Instagram.
Which one?
Oh, it was like a cat suit.
Yes, I remember. Yes, was that you still trying to relive the Sarah from Swankies?
I was like, she's come out the bag.
Yeah, there's still part of you that you have to roll back the ears.
Do you know what I mean? This was like it was a women's. I think it was called it was something about being a diva or being bold, and the dress code was like on the event like. Dress code diva.
I bet you were like, yes, this is my chance.
Hello.
The comeback.
Hello.
The comeback is on.
Entered the room.
Were you really happy in that? How happy were you?
I was like, it's the best day of my life. Last year was definitely the day of the cat suit. Like, honestly, if you ask my family or anything, they'll be like, what did Sarah like to do when she was young? They will tell you she changed her outfit about 4 times a day and said, take a picture of me. Take a picture
really?
Of me. Like, literally, there is like countless pictures. I said to Mum, was I doing this every day? She goes, no, that was just one day. Like, and the outfits were the most wackiest, weirdest, crazy outfits. So this is living my childhood dreams.
So when you heard about Swankies, you must have been, yes. This is my moment to shine. You must have been. How did you hear about? I know we're veering off here, but how did you hear about Swankies?
I don't even know. It was like really undercover, wasn't it? I can't even remember. Yeah, because it was invite only at the beginning.
Yes, it was. Yeah, you had to make the cut. You had to make the cut. You really did.
Yeah. Like on Facebook, scrolling through, like that one. Let's invite her. Facebook days, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't know, but
do you still drink alcohol?
I was going to ask you that question. I do, but not regularly and not a lot. Yeah. So I physically get turned off after 2 drinks. It just doesn't. Like, on a real push at Christmas, maybe you can get a few more in me. But I physically don't like the taste after 2. It's very like strange, but that's conditioning. For sure, it's conditioning. It's cheap date, right?
Yeah. So you're still single? Ish. Okay. Okay. We'll leave that one there. Sorry.
That one there.
But no, I know with the drinking thing. I mean, God, that was mental back in the day. I mean, I spoke openly about my struggles with that. Back in the day. But yeah. I had a horrific hangover on Sunday because I'm like you. I don't drink that much now, but I'm still very, very good if I want to go from 0 to 100. So I need to learn
that moderation.
Yeah, just having 1 or 2 is okay. But no, like you, I'm on the same page as that. It just does not really float my boat anywhere near as much last year. I didn't drink for 9.5 months last year. 9.5 months, yeah. but I made it a bigger deal than what it was. I've spoke about this on a podcast. Didn't drink for 9.5 months. Then it was my 40th, and it was like I ended up competing with people who quit drink who didn't even know I was competing with. But I proved my point. I've got total control now, if that makes sense. You know, it's.
I think it's good to go through seasons of that. You know, I'm not someone who has cut drinking off and finds that useful. I think being in hospitality as well, like sometimes you'd be, you know, like at a client meeting and everyone's having, you just want to be in the same energy as people. It wouldn't kind of necessarily serve me in the business sense. And I do know I have control over it. So I think I can say that because I completely respect people who do cut it off and cut it off for good. I don't think there's one way of dealing with alcohol. I think we're all very unique, and then I know people that drink every single day, multiple, and they're totally chill. I'm fine. I just couldn't do that.
I'm the same. I just kind of value energy so much. That the risk, you know, that the pro versus the cost is just
well, it's like with everything. It's like, you know, you could have a situation happen like my sister, where that emotional energy that it takes for you to live was unasked for. Why choose situations where you're actively putting extra load on you that you can take control and change?
No, I get it. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, lots of value, lots of fun as well. Where can people find you?
I think the best place is Instagram. Sarah.Moxom.
You have to check out the cat suit.
Got to check out the cat suit. Give it a comment.
No, honestly, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, I love your energy, and I've no doubt there'll be amazing things in Dubai with the growth of the business, and I've absolutely no doubt you're on many stages and multiple podcasts for years to come. So thank you so much for listening. Please check Sarah out, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Kirk.